before we leave that, the goal 6 actually speaks directly to the street system and arterial routes. And I do believe, as do many people in the township, that circulation and traffic-related issues are, sort of top of mind. So again, it's a question of can we crisp it up so that we know what we're talking about under which goals? Does it belong under pollution, or does it belong under goal 6, which is talking to the street system?
I think goal 6 is really getting into more, specifics such as the circulation element and where, the traffic, just mentioning that traffic leads to pollution, in a more of a general statement there.
Yeah.
I mean, I can go either way on that.
Traffic does lead to pollution if you've ever stood on the street next to idling cars, so.
Is there any benefit to combining them, Paul? Or
No, I mean, I think that I think, Linda, that we could add Jim's just simply referencing under goal 2 that, traffic congestion is a source of air pollution, then deal with separately under goal 6 with the issues of traffic. I don't see that as an issue. Goal 3 basically details I guess that back in '94 you did the first historic plan element, and I think, Jim, we were going to try and reach out to the Historic Preservation Commission on this.
Yeah, and you know what, I guess that's, a good point to just kind of bring in I've mentioned this to the board before, that we did distribute this document to all the committees that are out there, recreation, trails, open space, environmental commission, historic preservation. I'm probably forgetting a few, to get their input and look at these particular sections that apply to them. And we did get it out to historic preservation. And I'd like to point out something that we did with some of the mapping, because it was, the county did a really good job when it came to updating the plates. You may recall, and don't quote me on the years, but the master plan plates we updated, separate from the last re-exam, and it was probably in the ballpark of 2012, 11, somewhere in that time. But in Morris Township, we have a couple historic districts. And the original mapping for the master plan for historic districts dealt with the 3 historic districts that we have in Morris Township. There's the Normandy, Prudent Town, and Washington Valley. So what the county did was they have their own specific districts as part of their master plan. So they incorporated them into our mapping just to have more comprehensive. Our original map only had our 3 historic districts, so they added in their master plan elements from the county master plan. And then on top of that, they listed all the cultural resource surveys that were completed on properties, historic homes. So that was added into the map, and there's a significant amount of information. And then they added some more information relative to the National State Register listings. So the mapping that was completed in around 2012, was really comprehensive, and it does a lot more for us. And the plan is to have the county do the updates on all the plates. I want to say we have 12 plates or so in the master plan, and we're hoping to work a contract with the county to do the updates since this last mapping.
Route 24, terminus at 287. Is that on the table, off the table, discussable? I mean, don't forget when this came through in 1986, 87, there was a plan to take the 24 out to Tinwood Road, and that would ameliorate, in my humble opinion, a lot of the traffic that gets dropped off in Morristown and Morris Township. And I wonder, I mean, is that off the table? Because I see it says in here, the last master plan specifically said that we did not care to extend Route 24. I wasn't here, so I had no input into that.
And that will be some additional language that goes in here. The state is actually putting out the sale of that right-of-way to the municipalities that it exists. So we are, actively pursuing that as open space. So all plans to extend, I would agree with you in the grand scheme of things, probably not a popular thing for anyone who lives out in Washington Valley, but if Route 24 was to be extended, it would, relieve a lot of traffic congestion issues. But years ago, the decision was made not to extend 24 beyond Route 287, and that right-of-way that was purchased, 60s or 70s, something like that, is now being offered back to the municipalities as open space. So we are pursuing that as open space purchase. So Paul, I kind of digressed on
No, that's
the
okay.
historic preservation issue.
So, but we intend on getting some feedback from the Historic Preservation Commission, which we will share with you as we move forward.
So you don't have that feedback yet?
No, I did put something out, maybe it was in November, and requested the information back by December, and I'm still waiting on that from, I've got it from Open Space, but I need to do some prodding on some of the other committees.
I can't help but wonder, how do you create new historic sites that are not historic already?
The passage of time.
Every 10 years?
I don't think there'll be too much more going on that list, but you never know, there could be some other updated information.
I couldn't help but wonder, so.
Someone could
I don't-
always
I
put
don't
in a
want to
nomination at some point along the way, but.
Well, I mean, on a very small scale, and I see someone in the audience who's familiar with this, but, we did work to preserve a historic home, in Washington Valley that was in danger of being torn down if we hadn't taken action to do a subdivision. So by knowing that that's our goal in our master plan, that gave us perhaps the background or whatever to take that action, and have some justification for that action.
Gotcha.
Well, it also makes it defendable if it's challenged, correct me if I'm
Oh,
wrong.
no, absolutely. That's why we do, one of the reasons we do the master plan reexamination report, so we don't have to deal with the rebuttable presumption that our development regulations are not valid. They are presumed valid by virtue of our continuing to stay on top of this in a timely fashion.
So, on to, we kind of left off at goal 4 on page 7. We talked about this a bit, preservation of low-density, single-family character, attention to multifamily development, carefully selected areas. This, I believe, will remain a goal of the master plan, with several of those nuances for infill multifamily, and also the affordable housing comes into play, which is dealt with in the latter paragraph on page 7. The St. Mary's is again off the table at this point. I don't know if we have, Jim, more detailed information on the vacant land analysis, where the supply of vacant land, I guess, this document indicated what it had been in 1994 and how that had been reduced. I don't know. If
We should be able to get that as part of our analysis with the GIS, because the assessor does have a specific code for vacant land, so we can get an updated number on that.
Vacant land includes farmland too, doesn't it?
Well, there's a specific category for farmland, so it may be broken down into some different categories, and we have to take a look at that just to see, because some of that vacant land would not be listed as farmland, it's vacant standalone. So there could be some overlap on that, and we have to kind of go through the data.
And Jim, when we were doing some of the background work when we were preparing the housing element fair share plan, we did take a look at this. And I think we may have some up-to-date within the last year or two information in our office that may be able to address this issue on remaining vacant land.
Yeah,
So
my recollection
I will
was
dig that up. I forgot if Steve reminded me that we had done that. So I can dig that up as well, and that may give us a fairly accurate figure.
Yeah, I think we were in the 240 acres or something.
Yeah, that sounds right when we were discussing it. Okay, over to top of page 8, talking about mechanisms of meeting the fair share. I mean, we're gonna, we've dealt with that in terms of our housing element. The one thing, as you know, the regional contribution agreements are off the table. Can't do those anymore, so that's no longer an acceptable method of meeting your fair share obligation. Goal 5 is maintenance of existing commercial areas and restriction of new commercial development. I guess the policy at the time was that you weren't anticipating much new population growth, ergo there wasn't a need to expand the commercial land use component in order to meet that growth, and that was the policy at this point. So I would assume that other than infill and redevelopment, that probably is something that is probably an objective that I would assume has not or will not change from a policy standpoint, other than the infill. But you tell us.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
We're certainly not we're getting pressure the other way
Yeah,
to reduce that commercial.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
But what about, there's specific mention in there about the State Planning Commission and, Morristown being listed as a regional center. I mean, does the State Planning Commission even exist or serve any function anymore? I mean, it seemed like 10
Well,
years ago.
it's sort of been on hold for some time, and there was a draft plan done, I don't know how many years ago, and it never went anywhere, so the last document is I guess, the 2001. It was 1992, and then there was a 2001 document, and then there was a draft, I think, during Christie's first term, and it never went anywhere, so there's not much activity going on, so it's kind of not really terribly relevant. I think that Morristown is a regional center. I don't know how much it's relevant to Morris Township, to be honest with you. But
I think it may still affect, funding, where they're able to get certain grants, because they're a regional center.
yeah, but that doesn't affect us.
Yeah.
That's my only point.
Except for the traffic.
Indirect. Mr. Chairman.